Okay. I'd like to call the June 7th City Properties Committee meeting to order. So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Section 30A, Section 20, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the City of Westfield City Properties Committee will be conducted by remote participation. Specific information can be found on the City of Westfield website, www.cityofwestfield.org. For this meeting, members of the public which wish to listen to the meeting may do so by tuning into Channel 15 or Channel 12, or online at westfieldtv.org, or online at youtube.com/Westfield Community Programming Channel. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post the city's website an audio recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Faithfully submitted, Dan Alley. All right, thank you. Roll call. John Beltrandy. Is John going to be here?
He sent us a text. He said he wasn't sure if he was going to be here.
Okay, Dave Flaherty.
Here.
And Dan Alley here. Okay, so is anyone else recording this meeting? Or do we waive that? Is that part of the waiving? Peter?
Pete's recording it. Yep, it's on channel 12.
Okay.
Or YouTube.
And then no one else is recording. All right, so we come to the part of the meeting for public participation. If anybody wishes to speak, please state your name and address. Peter, do we have anybody on the phone or wishing to speak? Anybody here that would wish to speak in public participation?
My name is Carmel Stager, and I live at 60 Wood Road, and I would like to speak on the public participation for item number 2 as it concerns the Main Street Bridge. Pardon?
Can you just repeat your address?
Yes, 60 Wood Road.
60 Wood Road, yeah?
Yep.
All right. Thank you. You may go ahead.
Should I wait until item 2 or should I start now?
No. We're only doing public participation at the beginning of the meeting, not during the topics.
Okay. All right, great. So I'm the chair of the Friends of Columbia Greenway Rail Trail, and I appreciate being invited to this meeting this evening. Our concerns are with the proposal and request by the Purple Heart organization to name the green bike path bridge that was just recently installed over Main Street, to name it the Purple Heart Memorial Bridge. And I just want to introduce a couple of other board members who are with me this evening. Jonathan McCatton is our Director of Development, and Paul Kakalise is one of our at-large members and also a professor at Westfield State University. So they will also speak during this meeting to the proposal. But I did want to say that I understand that we are very supportive of the veterans in Westfield, and especially those who were wounded in active combat, and their causes to bring about just more notice and appreciation from citizens of Westfield about what they have done and what they continue to do to protect our country. Really very, very supportive of all those measures. But I had recently sent to the Properties Committee last week and to Councilman Alley the week before the memorandum of agreement that we have with the City of Westfield that we've had since 2015, which speaks to the properties along the rail trail, and that we would have some, not joint ownership because it is Westfield property, but that we would have some input regarding the naming of different, different structures and different parts of the rail trail, and where the Main Street Bridge is such a significant and, it's almost, the part of the completion of the central section, we really want to make sure that we have a chance to think about this proposal from the Purple Heart organization. So to that end, I just wanted to introduce a couple of ideas about that. We also have, been working in Westfield so that we have many different multi-use paths throughout town. And I think that as we go full steam ahead with some of these proposals and some of the plans for the Westfield River Levy, that we should just stop here and make sure that we keep all parties involved in the conversation about naming opportunities and make sure it's a thoughtful conversation. So I appreciate the time. I don't know if Jonathan, you want to speak now?
Thank you. Yeah, we have about 15 minutes of public participation, so each person should only get about 3 minutes. So if you want somebody else to come up.
Okay, thank you, Kamal.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else that wanted to speak?
Yes, may I go next?
Yep, go ahead. What's your name, please?
Jonathan McCatton, 42 Arnold Street.
Okay, can you just spell your last name quickly for me?
Sure, MC
Yes.
HATTON.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me participate. As Carmel mentioned, I serve on the board of directors of the Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail. As the director of planning and development, I went to school for planning and I practice it professionally now. And I speak from that perspective when we approach how we name, pieces of physical infrastructure such as this. The bridge itself has just been erected. It's not even yet complete, and the central section isn't yet complete. So the public really hasn't had a chance to experience this fully. And I feel that we're sort of getting ahead of ourselves and trying to name something that the community hasn't yet been able to experience. And, I feel that we should wait to see how the community interacts with the central section, in particular this bridge, to sort of see how we can incorporate other perspectives and try and hear from other people we may not be hearing from now in trying to come up with a way that, we shouldn't try to name something yet before the community has really not yet had a chance to fully experience it. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
I'd like also to speak.
Yes.
Okay, Paul. I think his name's Paul.
My name is Paul Cackles. I live at 29 Westwood Drive. And I'd like to make clear that I'm not speaking on behalf of the university, although I work there, but I'm speaking as a board member at large of the Friends of Columbia Greenway Rail Trail and with my own voice. I'm wondering if I might be able to do a shared screen to show a picture. Is that allowed?
Oh, yes, definitely.
All right, somebody could unlock it and allow me to do that. I would appreciate it.
Well, actually, Peter would have to answer that question. Is that something you can do, Peter?
Okay, thank you. All right. Hopefully you all see this at this point. Part of this conversation we've had as a group over this last week is wondering why this specific structure, because as Jonathan mentioned, it's not even complete yet. Part of that is that Mr. Don Wielgus mentioned to Carmel in a phone conversation last week that the Purple Heart Trail organization isn't even interested in signage on the trail, because although the trail is one of the city properties that is ADA compliant and open to all, he had told Carmel that his group membership isn't interested in using the Greenway. So to us, this suggests that they're really looking to increase awareness for those going near, but not actually using the bridge. And you can see from these city renderings on the city's engineering page that the plan for this bridge already has extensive signage on both sides, including the city seal, welcoming letters to people in downtown, and the name of the structure already on the bridge. In fact, this design's already been referred to in the planning meetings, and there's been many of them, as the Gateway Bridge, as it welcomes people into Westfield on Route 20. So placing additional signage on this structure, at least in our opinion, would likely detract from the message of welcoming to Westfield. And this isn't a new addition. This has been the plan through all of the public hearings and since the 25% plan, which was years ago on this. If visibility and awareness are the desired outcomes from this proposal to name the bridge the Purple Heart Trail Bridge, then we have suggestions for the organization. the southbound Great River Bridge on Route 10202, which, by the way, is a part of the Purple Heart Trail, and this bridge is not. That bridge is not yet named. And although this is a state property, the Friends of Columbia Greenway Rail Trail would actually welcome the opportunity to work in conjunction with the Purple Heart Trail Organization, engaging Representatives Pease and Senator Vilas to have that structure named the Purple Heart Trail Bridge. That structure crossing the Westfield River has a considerably higher visibility to Westfield residents and to Westfield visitors, as it hosts pedestrians and an extensive number of vehicles today. As a reminder, the Greenway Bridge does not host vehicles. As the northbound Great River Bridge actually is already named, and it's named the All Westfield Patriots Bridge. We believe the theme would be consistent because it's doubtful anybody wouldn't consider Purple Heart recipients anything but patriots. If it's a structure on the Greenway that the Purple Heart Trail Organization is seeking, we've worked with and been very impressed by the Artworks Westfield group, the planning, design, and creation of their murals. The city DPW building has a back that is on the northern end of the Greenway Central section, and it offers a broad space that could host a very appropriate canvas for awareness, remembrance of the sacrifice, and honor of Purple Heart Medal recipients. Possibly incorporating groups such as the Warrior Art Room to assist with that endeavor would optimize awareness, and we would support that because we think it brings more attention to the Purple Heart Medal recipients in both the short and the long term.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yes, and thank you for all those suggestions. Is there anyone else?
Pete, bring us back.
Yes, I would also like to participate in public participation. And this is with regard to the motion by Councilor Morganelli and Ali that the ordinance for flag flying on city properties be reviewed and amended. And I apologize for not actually looking at what that looks like. So
Agma, can you just state your address, please?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So Agma Sweeney at 14 Pleasant Street in Westfield. So first of all, before I give my opinion, I mean, could I just know what the amendment and, is about regarding flying flags in city property?
And you want me to take it?
When we're at that particular point, and we'll explain what the purpose is. Currently, there is no city flag ordinance.
I see.
But the purpose of each item will be discussed when we get to those items tonight.
Okay. So Dave Flaherty, did you want to add to that explanation?
Yeah, but not during, just 30 seconds, Dan, during public speech. Can I do that?
Yeah, I mean.
All right, sorry. So the proposal is to discuss a set of rules that would apply to all flag flying on all city-owned flagpoles. It has absolutely nothing to do with any particular group or message or anything like that. It would be applicable to everybody and anybody who is flying flags on city-owned flagpoles. So that's the purpose of it. And we'll be discussing a proposed ordinance and a whole bunch of notes and stuff submitted by the proponent, Councilor Morganelli, Councilor Ali, myself, and Councilor Volpaterandy, and a couple of the other councils we've talked to. So we'll make some kind of proposal tonight. We'll discuss it, and then we'll figure out what our next steps are. But as of right now, there is no concrete plan, and there is certainly no plan to take away rights from anybody or to target any particular group or message. Thank you.
All right, I appreciate it. So thank you for the clarification, because that way I can make my comments with knowing what's ahead in the meeting.
Yeah.
So I'm here as a citizen of Westfield and also as a member and president of the Westfield Spanish American Association. We have flown the flag of Puerto Rico, as many of you know, for 26 years now. And I think, it's been, I was counting the mayors, I think with 5 mayors and countless city councils. And clearly, I'm in favor of continuing that. And I'm glad that that's not going to be impacted negatively. But I would also like to add that this is really about flying flags that represent the identity of communities like the Puerto Rican community in Westfield. So, or maybe like the pride flag that's now flying, in the city. I think that it gives a lot of our citizens a sense of belonging, and it's a really important message for individuals and members of community that have been historically marginalized. So I'm clearly in favor of, of a favorable ordinance to address this, which is actually after the fact. I mean, like I said, we've been doing this for 26 years, and we're very thankful to the community because in that time, you've got, children that are now adults and, and that are grown to feel that they belong in Westfield, their community. So and that's my comment, and I appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Agma.
You're welcome.
How about hitting Nick before we run out of time?
Nick, is Nick talking? Nick?
Yeah, he's there.
I can only see so many names now.
Yeah.
Well, the chair had told me that I would be able to speak during the actual item
Okay.
because I'm the proponent. I filed a motion as a city councilor. So
Perfect.
Okay. All right.
And if when you're done with everybody else, Dan, I have a letter from somebody.
Okay.
Oh, Kate's waving her hand.
Kate Phelan?
Yep.
Is that Kate?
Hi, I'm Kate Phelan, 150 Hillside Road. I'm here as a board member of the Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail, and I just want to thank you for getting us agenda item to us and the Zoom information to join this meeting. I just want to briefly just state that again, what our board president Carmel shared, and Paul and Jonathan. We just like the committee to really consider our points that were previously made about naming the Main Street Bridge, take into consideration our concerns that were already stated to you. Hopefully, and I hope you have all those points that were shared. Dan, you have those as documented, that our concerns are. And we appreciate your consideration and giving us a bit more time, have more further discussions about naming that bridge. And again,
Points
that were on the, in all due respect to the Purple Heart folks, they said they were not going to use the trail. There's signage on the bridge, and we'd like your consideration and consider our MOA that has Carmel also stated to you that we have with the city. All right, thank you.
Thank you. We have, and we will do, and we do have the documentation and that sort of thing. And I certainly appreciate Paul's suggestions and comments. And we will take all of that in consideration, as you'll see when we get to these items. So is there anybody else, Peter, that we have that wants public participation?
I have that letter from
Right, yeah,
Karen.
Also, right, and who's that from?
Karen Paghetti
Okay. And she,
and Court Street.
What number?
It doesn't say.
All right.
So her letter is signed by her and about 50 other people right now. It's councils on the morning of June 21st. Progress flag flies was raised on City Green after approval by Park and Rec, along with Mayor Humison. 4:52 p.m. same day, Councilor Morgan Alley filed a motion for a meeting to review and amend flag flying on city property. 6:30 p.m. same night, second annual Westfield Progress flag was raised. Let it be known the timing is very off-putting. I do not support it or anyone working further on this matter and request that it be thrown out at this time. Request for the Pride Alliance to Park and Rec to fly this flag was a positive thing. Lack of flag ordinance has never hurt the city of Westfield until some councils made one the day the flag was to be flown. Progress flag represents people, not political organizations, groups, private, public, or any exclusions to people. Councils would be better serve us by working to combat hate and halt work that may restrict those things in our community that are representative of equal rights, unity, love, and celebration, no matter who they are. There's another paragraph about the principles of flag flying and the LGBTQ community. A wonderful statement about flying flag in the center of the green. Our goal to ensure that this flag raises next year, and an opinion that we're going about this the wrong way. This whole letter will be attached to the minutes. It closes with, take a moment and think about position, what kind of Westfield you want to help create, and for the citizens you represent. Humankind will continue to evolve, and that can't be stopped. Progress flag flying in the city is a magnificent mark on the right side of Westfield's history. And what will you work to be remembered for? So the entire letter will be attached in the minutes, and it's signed by 50 people. And we got an email just about an hour ago saying that there were more people signing on to the petition.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Flaherty. And so that letter's been sent to,
It's sent to us through the city email.
correct. Has it been shared? That'll be sent to city clerk?
I'm not, it went to the clerk and then it came out to us
Okay, all right,
and I think a couple other city councilors,
all right.
but it definitely came to this committee.
All right, all right. So everybody on the committee received it?
Yep.
All right. Okay.
It was late in the day though, so you may not have it in your pile yet.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, so that's everybody for public participation. Okay, so, all right, so item 1 is motions by Councilors Morganelli and Alley that the ordinance for flag flying on city properties be reviewed and amended. So at this time, we have a draft ordinance that was submitted by Councilor Flaherty. Then there's about 14 pages of another comments by Councilor Morganelli with suggestions and some edits toward that document. So my original intent was to go down the document and maybe read it, and then either Councilor Beltrandi, and he still hasn't signed on to this yet. Signed on the meeting, right? So he's still not here. I'm sure legal is going to have a field day with this, you know what I mean? But that basically from here on, it's going to go to Legislative and Ordinance Committee and legal and the mayor, where it'll actually be drafted. So this committee is basically just taking input and working on this amendment or ordinance to a point where we can then send it to Legislative and Ordinance and legal to do the, to actually work up the ordinance and the resolution.
Well, if the format is correct, it can come right from our committee to the full city council without going through L&O. If law is already, if law gets involved in our committee, it just saves 2 meetings if we do that. And it's certainly up to the president to decide whether we need to or not. But if it's already in ordinance form and it's already been reviewed by law, then it does not necessarily have to go through L&O.
All right. All right.
So I think Councilor Morganelli should take the lead because he sent us a nice bulleted thing and he's the originator of this. And then if we take his comments and then compare them to what's in the proposal and then figure out what the next step should be, I think that's a nice path.
We could do that. So one of the things that I would like to say about this, this motion is, one of the purposes is to see, there is no flag ordinance for the city in place. And so it's by what authority, does the Park and Rec decide to either fly a flag or not fly a flag? Because some flags have been denied. And so, what is that process? As well as, what are the protocols for deciding something like this? Generally, with every level of government, either the legislative branch or the executive, whether it's the president, Congress, the state, or the state legislature, have specific protocols that they follow. And in Westfield, we don't. And so there's been flags that have been denied. But like I said, what process and what protocol and by what authority are they doing it? And if there's no authority written, then there is no authority to do that. So it becomes arbitrary. So that was the reason this was filed, to help clarify that. Anyways, so that's where we're at. So Councilor Morganelli, do you want to start talking about this?
Yes.
Or do you want to go through Councilor
Well, I'm gonna just, I'd like to just give you what my thoughts are on it, and then let your subcommittee do what you need to do, because I can't deliberate with you. I'm not part of this committee.
Okay,
So,
all right.
and I wanted to start with just a little history, and former Councilor Sweeney had questions. So there's a lot of ordinances on existing signs and banners, and to my surprise, being the liaison to the Park and Rec Commission when this came up, and a group of citizens wanted to fly a flag on the green, I looked for the ordinances, and there were none. There's really nothing. So that really surprised me, and it is something that a lot of municipalities have. They abide by federal law, state law when flying flags, and of course the American flag has to be the highest flag in a group of flag flying. So it really surprised me, and I said, you know what, we need an ordinance. We need to protect the city and allow citizens to have freedom of expression at the same time. So I filed the motion, and thank you, Councilor Alley, for going in on that motion with me. And the reason I did that, this is the first time anyone has asked to fly a flag on the city green. There has been, like Agma Sweeney had said, that mayors for the last 23 years have flown the Puerto Rican flag and raised the flag. And our current mayor has raised the LGBTQ plus pride flag last couple of years. So flags have been raised. I heard the Polish flag's been raised. I'm sure the Irish flag on St. Patrick's Day and so forth from time to time. So flags have been raised, but there really isn't any policy for that or ordinance. So that's why this came up. And it says, the timing of the whole thing was, I guess, affected somebody, and it was a sensitive thing to the group of people that wanted to see the pride flag flying, because the motion came out, and the letter Karen Paggetti had said that Councilor Flaherty read stated that the motion came out at the time that it came out, and that was posted in the city agenda online, and then the timing of this meeting. But it has really nothing to do with that. It's just a coincidence, and I'm just doing my job as a city councilor. My job, I saw a lack of an ordinance, and my job as a city councilor is to look at how I can solve that problem. And some say, well, it has never been a problem, but it is when you have different groups that might want to fly a flag and you don't want that group to fly the flag. So, and I'm talking about maybe some other groups, not the ones that have come forward, like Puerto Rican and the LGBTQ plus, but other groups that may want to fly a flag on our city flagpoles. So we just need some rules for that. That's all. And we can still allow the freedom of expression and allow the mayor to use his authority as the chief executive officer of the city of Westfield to do what he or she does and fly a flag and raise a flag and commemorate something or celebrate something. So anyway, the ordinance, I believe, would comply with federal, state, and law and mirror other municipalities. Some of the bullet points, I'll just read the bullet points so that everybody can hear them, and the subcommittee can then just take it from there, because I'm not going to deliberate with you. But my bullet points that I felt were necessary to include in the ordinance were language referring to the respect for our flags, language as to what an official government flag is, obviously the U.S. flag, a state flag, a city flag, a military flag, POW, missing in action flag, and there are others, I'm sure. U.S. flag always flies alone. I believe that should be the case. The Massachusetts state flag perhaps can fly alone, except when accompanied by an official city Westfield flag. The sizes of each flag maybe can be discussed. U.S. flag should be the largest, in my opinion. The city of Westfield flag should fly alone or with the Massachusetts state flag. And the city of Westfield flag may be accompanied by an auxiliary flag, like the Puerto Rican flag, but it is preferred for auxiliary flags to fly alone, in my opinion. And this committee will make that decision, and we'll vote on that in city council. Only a flagpole for auxiliary flags is the lowest one at City Hall. Only the mayor or city council, perhaps by resolution, may ceremoniously raise an auxiliary flag there. No auxiliary flags at schools, parks, or other city-owned flagpole or city property. And I think there should be enforcement. I think there should be a fine if someone ruins a flagpole or vandalizes a flag. And the official, only official government flags flown on city flagpoles, except for the auxiliary flags when they're, it's deemed necessary. And there are certain holidays or days of remembrance like 9/11, 4th of July, Veterans Day. I've given you, D-Day, perhaps Flag Day, that maybe that this committee can suggest that those days are set for those particular flags, and that no other flags be flown on those days of remembrance or holidays. So those were just some thoughts that I had, and I've sent the subcommittee an ordinance that I found from another community, and I've picked apart that and maybe highlighted some things that I liked about it. And there was another flag, what was it called? Like a flag act, like flag flying act or flag raising act in another community that I thought was pretty neat. There was a resolution of a city council that I thought was very well written. I think Councilor Flaherty will explain that one because I think he liked some of the wording in that as well. It's got to do with government speech, which I didn't know about until Councilor Flaherty mentioned that to me. And as I looked into that, that's different than government speech is different than something else than the other forms of speech. So I'll let the subcommittee take over unless Councilor Flaherty and the chair have a question specifically for me. I'll just let you guys run the meeting. That's pretty much it from my end.
Thank you. I don't have any questions, and I do appreciate all the work you put in on this and all the suggestions you've made. And I certainly understand where you're coming from. When I heard what was going on, I felt the same way, and you and Councilor Alley, certainly had no malintent at all in doing this, and you're addressing issues just like I do when it comes to finances. When I see something wrong, I try to fix it. Just the other day we have $350 million in OPEB liability, and certainly the next meeting that came up, I tried to address that right away. So those things are very common for city councils, and I do appreciate all the stuff you do, and particularly that you got this going. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate the time tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Yes, and thank you, Councilor Morganelli. So, Councilor Flaherty.
Okay. So you want me to go through it, and then I'll stop after each letter or number, Dan, and maybe I'll start with an intro, and then.
Yeah, and if something comes up with it, it's like that would be the place to add in one of these concerns, or if somebody just doesn't.
Right.
I've read it through, and I'm like, to hear it's a little bit different too.
Right.
Get to your city.
So yeah. All right. So to start off with, I'll say I kind of agree with Councilor Morganelli on the reason for this. As you know, I was involved in a First Amendment case against the city of Westfield, and I learned through that experience all about lawsuits and the rights of people to sue for content discrimination and things like that. And what my concern was when I heard what was going on the Green was that this just opens us up for many groups asking for the use of city property for private expression using their First Amendment rights. And I always understood the flagpoles to be a place of government speech and certainly respect for the flags of our country and state and city, and not to be used by the public for private messaging. So when I heard it I was thinking about the same thing, and it's just the other councilors, promoted this first. But I've actually written a lot of notes about this. I've communicated with a lot of people, and I want to address kind of the claims made by the proponents, of the pride flag. My intention has nothing to do with the pride flag. I've supported the pride community before. I have no ill will at all towards the pride community. And I have family members and friends who are somewhere in that spectrum, and I won't particularly say where, because I don't think that's fair. But I certainly respect and endorse and agree with all the free speech and all the free rights and all the progress that's been made in the last 50 years. Those of us who are my age and older remember when it was a crime to declare yourself a certain way. And the world has certainly changed, and I think everybody in Westfield understands and appreciates that. But the message of that group has nothing to do with this motion to define what can and can't go on city property. That's what this motion is about. Who can use city property for a message that they, as a group or person, feel is appropriate? And my feeling when I started looking at this is that it's not a public forum. You know, people can stand on the green and hold signs and banners, and we have rules about that. When we campaign, for example, we can stand there and hold our campaign signs, but we can't leave those campaign signs there for a week. And the same way with nonprofits, when they're running a program in town, they can't leave signs on the green for a week, and they can't attach them to our city buildings. So I felt that this request kind of went against the already existing rules we had about that kind of stuff, the use of public property. As far as precedent goes, the precedent was never a permit process, right? So former Councilor Sweeney talked about the WASA flag. The WASA flag was displayed at the discretion of the mayor. The WASA group went to the mayor and asked to fly that flag. And the same thing last year with the pride flag. The group went to the mayor and asked the mayor, and the mayor gave permission. And the same thing this year, though this letter says Park and Rec gave permission, but it was really the Park and Rec ceded to the mayor. And the mayor made the ultimate decision at the request of Councilor Mello. Councilor Mello, after the Park and Rec decided to cede to the mayor, Councilor Mello asked the mayor to display the flag for a week, and the mayor immediately turned around and ordered that. And that's exactly the process we've had in the past. People ask the mayor makes the decision, and the flag flies or doesn't fly. My goal in doing this was to make it so that that process was followed in the future, and that we didn't burden other committees, city councils, boards, commissions with deciding what is and isn't appropriate speech for public flagpoles. However, I also want to make sure that we make it very clear that the mayor just can't put up hate flags. One of the other paragraphs that I kind of briefly shorted in here was discussing what is hate and hate speech. And as you know, somebody our age, most of the people I'm looking at on the screen, what we hear today and described as hate speech was common speech 30 years ago. And people find things offensive today that they didn't find offensive a few years ago. So defining hate and hate speech is a moving target. And I think we have to be wary of that when we write ordinances, so that we cover things that we all agree might be offensive or hateful, but without being so specific that we cause ourselves problems in the future. We also have to allow for expression in many forms. The First Amendment is all about expression, and the LGBTQ community certainly understands expression and their rights to express themselves in many ways. And if they take that flexibility and apply it to other groups that want to do the same thing, I think they would see where I'm coming from, is that it's not my position as a city councilor or the mayor's position as the mayor to decide what and isn't appropriate expression for individuals or groups. They all have the right to define what that is for them. But it is the mayor's job to decide what is appropriate expression for the city of Westfield. And that's where I think we should go with this ordinance. We don't need boards and commissions spending time on this. The precedent is that the mayor gets to do this. It falls in a category of government speech. And those of you out here watching if you do Google search for government speech doctrine, you can learn all about this. But basically, government speech is allowed to discriminate based on the message, based on the feeling of the government and the expression of the government who has been elected or hired to represent you as part of the government. So that's what this ordinance does. Councilor Morganelli's suggestions are right in line with many of the things I already wrote into the ordinance, though there are a few edits, and I'll talk about those as we go through the sections. Right. So first off, the section that he mentioned that I really thought had good language came from a town in New Jersey. And it says, whereas the government speech doctrine established that a government organization such as the city of Westfield may advance its own expression without requiring viewpoint neutrality when the government itself is the speaker, so long as it is expression does not show religious preference. So that's a nice opening statement, and it talks directly to that point of government speech. So I think we should try to include that somewhere in our proposal, though I'm not sure that that language can actually be inside an ordinance. It might be on a preamble to the document that we use to create the ordinance, but I don't think it can be part of the ordinance itself. And it does reference the law case, the 2017 case, and there are others. Again, if you Google government speech doctrine, you'll find many cases, including one recently in Boston that describes the city's ability to decide what goes on its flagpole and what doesn't. And there was a lawsuit where one group sued saying they were unfairly treated, and the courts ruled that they may have been unfairly treated, but the government has the right to decide what goes on those flagpoles. So you can see that if you look up, I believe it's a January case in the city of Boston. All right, so the ordinance, I'll start from the beginning. Ready, Dan? So
Yes.
211. So I'm suggesting this be put in Chapter 2, Administration of the City Code of Ordinances. It may get moved somewhere else depending what the law department advises if this does go forward. But for right now, I have it at 2-11, City Flagpoles. For the purpose of this ordinance, flagpole shall mean a pole made out of wood, metal, fiberglass, or similar material that is normally used to display the American flag, POW/MIA flag, the flag of the Commonwealth of Mass, flag of the City of Westfield. The definition of flagpole shall not include flag sockets that are referenced in section 16-137, banner holders that are attached to utility poles or other city-owned infrastructure, nor banner stands that may be posted at cemeteries, memorial parks, or other city-owned facilities. So the purpose there is to talk about what is and isn't included in this ordinance. There have been people that questioned whether this would apply to, for example, those advertising banners that are on some of the lights downtown, or the banners that are in the Memorial Cemetery. But this is not about that at all. This is about flagpoles that typically hold flags. Okay, you good with that, Dan?
Yes.
Okay. B, city-owned flagpoles are for the exclusive use of the government of the city of Westfield. Pretty straightforward.
Yes.
C, no permit or rental agreement granted by any executive, authorized officer, city directory, board, commission shall allow for the private use of any city-owned flagpoles. Pretty straight, good?
That's pretty fit. That's good.
Okay. By right, number D, city-owned flagpoles may display the following types of flags: American flag, POW/MIA flag, and any current or historic flag of the United States of America or its states, regions, countries, territories, Indian reservations, districts, cities, towns, or any other recognized geographical political division. So this pretty much covers any official flag anywhere in the United States, including historic flags. Councilor Morganelli circled that word historic, and I can just briefly say that I put that in there because in some places around the country, historic flags are raised at different times of the year as part of an educational or awareness program. And I thought it might make sense just to allow that in here, again, at the mayor's discretion. But if he wants to put up, say, the War of 1812 flag just to talk about history someday, he should be allowed to do that. That's why I left that in there. But I think we can let this fly for the rest of the council. Let them decide.
Correct. And usually, well, you're talking, past historic, versions of existing flags. There's already protocols in place for all of that.
Yep.
And precedent for that.
Right. So D2, any current or historical flag of the Commonwealth of Mass, any current or historic flag of the city of Westfield. So the same thing, just more specific to our state and city, because I want to make that clear. And here's a special rule for school properties. On school properties, any flag of the school or any flag of teams, clubs, or student organizations associated with that school. So school properties in particular have their own sets of rules under the Massachusetts school laws. So this one might be a problem if we try to tell the schools what to do. The city council really can't micromanage schools as far as I know. So we have to run this by law department and see if this is allowed to be in this ordinance or not. If it's not, I would send this suggestion to the school committee so that they can make their own policy about this that complies with our goals. But the goal here is that we know this happens already on schools. Schools hang their school flag up there. Schools hang, sports flags on certain days. student organization flags on certain days. So we don't want to limit their ability to do that. So I wanted to put this in there as a by right thing where they didn't have to ask permission. Just if the principal or the superintendent or whoever has the power to decide what goes on those flagpoles, that should be perfectly fine. You okay with that?
No, that makes sense.
Okay. And the next one was similar, but on city sports fields. So, and just think of Bullens for an example, or Sadie Knox Field. So there's teams that play on those fields. So on any city sports field, any flag of the teams, clubs, or organizations that are playing on the field for a duration that begins no sooner than 1 hour before the game time and ends no later than 1 hour after game time. So for example, during Babe Ruth tournaments, sometimes they fly the Babe Ruth flag. That makes sense to allow them to continue to do that.
Right.
Okay, and now the big one that everybody's been waiting for is what we're calling an auxiliary flag in this case. Any auxiliary flag, hereby defined as any flag that is not specifically listed in those items I just described above. So any flag of any kind that's not included in those other ones, that speaks for the city, the office of the mayor under the mayor's sole and complete discretion as the elected mayor, chief executive officer of the city of Westfield in accordance with the following sections F through J. So that covers all of these requests. Any kind of flag that the mayor feels is appropriate can be hung. Okay, so that again allows for the WASA flag, the Pride flag, and the Russian flag, the Irish flag, whatever he wants, the Go Red Sox flag.
Right.
And the purpose again is that the mayor as the chief executive gets to make that decision by himself. He doesn't need permission of a board. There's no permit process. It's just a mayor's executive decision. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And so that becomes the authority. And if I may just make one comment.
Yep.
There's two kinds of discrimination. There's unintended and intended discrimination. And situations have arisen where groups, very valid groups, have been denied, by a board or commission, the ability to fly a flag. And so they weren't able to fly the flag. And so that became a problem in and of itself, because it's like by what authority, but also what process have you followed to, let's say, deny, a very valid organization that wanted to fly a flag for the day, or, it might be a nationally recognized, an awareness day or month or whatever it was, and it was denied. And so that could have turned into a very messy situation. There is a definite difference between political speech and what Council Flaherty is describing as government speech. But we would still kind of open ourselves up to, something that, it becomes arbitrary. It's I don't even know if the city could be sued over it because, there's no, the way it falls, but I don't think it's that kind of an issue, but it's very arbitrary.
So and that's why we're kind of doing this, because when you have a free speech category and then the government tries to control free speech or discriminate based on content, that's when you end up in problems. And when it's the government speech and the elected officials or hired officials that are making the decision as their own in their power as an officer, that's completely different. And that's what this is about here. This is giving the mayor the ability to decide what is an appropriate message to hang on a city-owned piece of property. Just like if he was put a sign on City Hall or a sign on a building. That's what this is about.
There was no due process, and there was no recourse, for the citizens or the organization that were told no. It was just no.
But if there was a permit process, and let's say it was up to Dave Flaherty, Dan Alley, and Nick Morganelli, and we said yes to one group and then no to another group.
Yeah.
Somebody could come along and say,
you know what? Process.
Right. You guys, you're, of a certain bent in political leaning, and you wanted to put up the "Let's Make America Great Again" flag, say. And some people might find that flag completely offensive and say, you know what, you put that flag up. How come you're not going to put up the flag that says, "Go Red Sox"? So we don't want to get in that kind of content discrimination type mode. So this is up to the mayor to decide what goes up there. There is no permit process.
Right.
It's a mayor's discretion, just like he's used in these last examples.
All right. Yeah.
All right.
So that section is fine, I think.
Okay. Item E is Any flags flown on City Hall flagpoles will be displayed in a manner consistent with the U.S. flagpole. And that jives with Councilor Morganelli's request too. At note, and that U.S. flagpole code talks about the elevations of the different flags and the sizes and the orientations and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
At no time will the City of Westfield, so here's the hate speech section or bad speech section. At no time will the City of Westfield display flags deemed by the mayor under the mayor's sole and complete discretion as the elected mayor, City of Westfield be. So no commercial in nature, inappropriate or offensive in nature, supporting discrimination or prejudice, supporting insurrection, criminal activity, violence, property destruction, or civil disobedience, relating in any way to religious denominations, religious philosophies, religious causes, religious movements, or religious organizations, relating in any way to political parties, political candidates, political causes, political slogans, ballot or referendum questions, or political speech in any form, relating to any individual person or family in the broadest sense allowed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So just like we talked about in our zoning meeting the other night, the definition of family in year 2021 is a lot different than it was a few years back. Displaying words in any language, images, or symbols that are deemed obscene, offensive, or hateful. So all of those things would never be allowed on any flag, regardless of which flag it is.
Right. And that's a section that I would think legal is going to have to scrutinize.
Yep.
Because was this taken from an existing ordinance anywhere?
Yeah, some of this came from Boston, and then some of it I just merged together from other
It's
places.
helpful, but all right.
Right. But
Right.
again, it's under the mayor's sole and complete discretion. So that's
Yeah,
how
I
the
was-
mayor interprets that category of things.
Right.
Right.
I'm just,
Yep, I
because
know.
of the language and the innuendos of all, what's in front of here, I'm just, that's why I asked you if it was already somewhere like Boston. It's already passed muster in another, major city, both their legal department and the council having voted on it. Because like I said, this is something that I don't think any standing committee,
Right.
legal's going to sign off on this anyway.
Yeah, legal's going to have to
Yeah.
give us feedback on it. Yep.
All right.
So I tried to cover everything that people would consider hate speech or inappropriate speech.
Yeah, no, the wording seems fine. I mean, I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and I think that's clearly the goal. And I know the letter from Karen Getty and others wanted us to try to define what hate speech was and talk about banning that. And
I
we
think
can't
that-
necessarily do
well-
that, but we can do this in the flag ordinance
Right.
to set
I haven't
guidelines.
seen the letter from Karen. I mean, I love Karen,
Okay.
and I think with her it was more a question of timing.
Yep.
But it was just that we were also familiar with people being turned down, and really, like, it's a decision that the mayor should be making, rather than the Park and Rec Commission. And the fact that, like I said, people were denied.
Well, I can tell you from my experience with Park and Rec is that they are consistent and that they enforce their rules about who can
Right.
use the facilities and the type of signage they can have and how long the signs can be up. They've been very consistent because I asked during elections season to use some of their facilities to have standouts and meetings and parties, and they've been really good about that. And they consistently have said, you know what, you can have your banners and flags up while you're there during your event, but you can't leave them up 2 days ahead of time and tell people you're going to be there, because that would be unfair to everybody else that wants to use those parks at the same time. And we already have precedents that says you can't do that. So your flags and banners can only be up while you're there. And then you know how it is with standouts. When you're standing out there, you can't leave your signs unattended. You have to have people holding those signs. You can't stick them on the side of buildings or anything. So I think they've been very consistent. All right, item G, auxiliary flags may only be flown at facilities where there are 2 or more flag poles. So, and you'll see why in a minute, but there are some facilities that only have 1 flagpole, and I don't think those are appropriate for these flags, given the priority of the other flags. So, and Councilor Morganelli circled 2 and suggested 3. So I'm going to put that in our notes.
Okay.
But for example, the green currently has 2 existing flagpoles. City Hall has 4. Some ball fields, I believe, have 2, but not 3. I haven't done an inventory, but this would allow auxiliary flags only to be flown where there are 2 or more flagpoles. And the reason for that is that the auxiliary flags may never fly on the same flagpole as the American flag. And I think that is in Councilor Morganelli's notes, and is pretty consistent in other documents I've looked at, that the American flag should stand alone.
Well, that's in federal law too.
Okay. The size of the auxiliary flag may not exceed the size in square feet of the American flag displayed in the same flagpole cluster. Again, that's kind of what Councilor Morganelli had, but he also suggested that we have size limits potentially, or size specifications. I specifically didn't put in sizes because I know it's covered in the U.S. code, but I think that's a topic for discussion at the full council if we were to try to do this.
Right. Okay.
All right. Departments, boards, commissions, city council, school committee, city employees, residents, business owners may suggest flags to the mayor. The mayor is not obligated to acknowledge or accept such suggestions. The mayor shall have the sole and complete discretion to order the display of auxiliary flags on city-owned flagpoles for any period of time the mayor desires. The mayor shall not have to justify any decisions, actions, or inactions related to this flagpole ordinance. There is no path to appeal any decision, action, or inaction of the mayor related to the city flagpole ordinance. So again, this goes to giving the mayor the complete power to decide what's on those flagpoles, just like he's always had.
And is
in the
that
past.
language also in the Boston ordinance?
No, the Boston ordinance has a committee that processes the requests and has the authority to decide what goes on that for the city.
So they do it differently
Yeah.
by committee. Well, and once again, I think that's something that legal will weigh in on.
Yep.
Well, you know what I mean?
And I think the feedback I got from a few of the councilors and the commission members is they don't want this responsibility of deciding what can go on flags and what can't go on flagpoles. Like, can you imagine if every month we had to spend an hour deciding what gets to go on the flagpoles at our city council meetings? You know, we really have other things to do. And the same thing with Park and Rec Commission. You know,
Correct.
they probably have 30 flagpoles in their inventory. And if they had requests all the time, it would just be overly burdensome and unnecessary.
Correct.
And I think the people can trust the mayor to do this. And it's worked in the past. If the people don't like it, they can talk to the mayor or they can vote him out. You know, they have the ability to do those kind of things. So,
Right.
so that's what I have. And then I actually put in some flying date things, but I took them back out. I wrote in one of my versions that flags should not, auxiliary flags should not fly any day the American flag is flying at half staff or half mast. And I also agree with Councilor Morganelli that there should be select days that should be reserved just for the American flag. However, it has to be worded in a way that, you know, doesn't discriminate based on somebody's free speech rights. So like the word respect, that's an opinion or an expression. So like you see at some of the professional sporting events, not everybody follows the same rules of respect that the majority follow when the American flag is flown. So I think we have to be really careful when we try to put in words like respect or behavior or things like that. We have to really be aware of people's rights to express themselves in a way that some people may not necessarily agree with, and that's just part of the way our rights work. So I think we just have to be careful with the phrasing of those kind of things.
Right. All right.
So those are all my notes. I can type it all up and, you know, we can look at it at the next city properties meeting and then bring it forward. You know, we can probably invite the law department to our next city properties meeting and then figure out what to do with it. You know? Or we can just send it as is to L&O and let them take it and then.
Well, I mean, we could try to meet next week by working these things in. I think legal would probably want some time with it. I don't think she's going to, where they can review it and, you know, some sections may have to, like I said, if this came from the Boston, most of this must already pass muster, both legal and, you know, a lot of different considerations. That section is a J, you know, so let's see. you could work in those changes and we could meet next week. I don't know about having legal come in because I just think it just, we're getting them to talk to something like they would need to review it and spend some time with it.
Well, they already have the draft, and
Right.
I can type up these edits and send it to them, and maybe they can give us an opinion for next week if they have
Yeah, I
time.
mean, today's Monday. Yeah, and then see what she says. If like she can get back
Okay.
to us, we can schedule a meeting next week.
Yep.
And take the as amended or has, as edited.
Right.
Because when's the next city council meeting is a week from this Thursday.
Yep.
I mean, we have all kinds of meetings for the whole, but
Right. But we could send it to L&O at that meeting too, and then let them take the next step if you wanted.
right. Well, it would be in pretty good shape at that point if we work, because like I said, if we're building off of this, and which is mainly the Boston ordinance in a large degree, looking at the New Jersey one.
Yeah, the New Jersey one had that good language at the
But there was a
preamble.
14-page document. Well, it was a re-edited of this that I received it at
Yeah.
4:15 today, and so I was working till 5 and didn't have a chance to.
So
I can't read that fast.
yeah.
So.
So I read through them. I think I covered all of Councilor Morganelli's
Right.
markups, but if not, I'll.
Well, you were more familiar with the original document, so comparing it was a little bit easier. I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
I didn't get to see it till about 5:45.
Okay. Councilor Morganelli, you want to give us some feedback without getting into deliberation?
Thumbs
Yeah,
up.
I just thank you, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate some of the things I mentioned at the beginning. I don't know if I mentioned that the amount of time that a non-governmental flag would be flown, and then I don't know if you just mentioned like federal, state, and holidays in a general sense to cover yourself. You want to specifically list all those and the thing. And then the enforcement thing I did mention, it's an ordinance, so it can have a fine attached to it, and it can have a specifics in there, language about vandalizing flag poles and flags and that kind of thing. But so I don't know. I just wanted to mention that. That's all.
Yep.
But
I
thank
have
you.
those marked.
Great job.
and
Great job.
Thank you. I have that marked, and the destruction of city property is already in an existing ordinance that maybe we can reference. And the dates, I did mention that topic, but not the exact dates that you suggested. I think I can put those dates that you suggested on there, but I agree with your comment that said maybe we need a complete listing if we're going to do that. So.
All right. So Councilor Flaherty, do you want to make a motion and I'll happily second it?
Sure. Motion to hold in committee, make the edits, send to law department, and meet again at the next city properties meeting.
Seeing no one else, I'll second that motion.
Okay. Yes.
Yes. So all those in favor?
2-0, hold in committee. Yep.
All right. All right. Thank you, Councilor Flaherty. Thank you, Councilor Morganelli. And
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody that came to the meeting. That's great. Great turnout.
Yeah. All right. So that's that. All right. So item 2. Item 2 is a motion by Councilor Alley regarding discussing naming the Main Street Rail Trail Bridge and refer to city properties and the mayor invite the Friends of the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail, Don Wiggless, who's the director of the Purple Heart Trail. Okay. So the purpose of this was to create a process for submitting a proposed process suggesting names to be sent to the mayor, basically through the council. So how this was, as we are probably aware, the council was read a letter 2 meetings ago that I think Jim Adams had received it. I don't know if the whole council had received it. He read it, and the council decided to send it to city properties. So that was all that was in front of us. And so this meeting was actually scheduled prior to our last city council meeting, which is kind of unusual. But my intent was, once I received it, I called the mayor. There was no intention to name the bridge. He wasn't even thinking about that. He had suggested I get a hold of Carmel and the Friends and basically just create a process that would include everybody that has a stake in the bridge, and come up with a process that would, will basically allow people to discuss it, come up with names, ways of dedicating it. Paul, I definitely like your comments and that sort of thing. But that's how this came in. And I think we may have received one more letter from Don Wiglis. Carmel and did send a memorandum of agreement, which I have, which was signed by Mayor Knappich in September of 2015, which I have read. And I agree that, everybody that has a stake in this bridge and is aware of the entire trail and all the points that Paul actually brought up, that we could come to some sort of agreement or even a process. So do the Friends, my question is this, do you guys meet on a regular basis, like have monthly meetings and that sort of thing? All right. But Don Wiglis is not here, so I can't really ask him. I don't know how often they meet. I think the main thing is that the name Purple Heart be someone included in the naming the bridge, whether it was partly dedicated. But Paul, you brought up a lot of good points, and the answer may lie in there. I think most of us assume that just the Great River Bridge, that was it. And there were just two bridges, and that's what it was named, because that's what it was called for the 20 years that it was being worked on. And so it's the southbound that's unnamed. Okay, I see you nodding there, Paul. You're doing a great job, Paul.
Yep.
So that was really it. So I do apologize to the Friends for, but it was just trying to move it forward. Even like this wasn't like this wasn't an item that came into the council. It was just a letter that was read. An amendment was made. There wasn't even on the agenda. And the first thing I needed to do was actually talk to the mayor and then Carmel and kind of create a process. So that's kind of where we're at. And this can take as long as need be and follow whatever process people feel is necessary. But this was my way of getting it on this city properties, because some of the things we're dealing with tonight are time sensitive. And
So Dan, I think on this thing, we need, again, a set of ordinances about how we name things in the city. We have a couple things, particularly that we can't name things after people anymore.
Right.
That's somewhere in the code. I just have to go dig it up. But I think, again, we should have a standard set of ordinances that talk about how we name anything in the city, not just this bridge. But if we're going to go down this path, we might as well talk about all the facilities in the city, whether it be parks and playgrounds and bridges. And, there's several more bridges between this bridge and the river. And we heard last week that somebody wants to name the Orange Street Bridge after, a very worthy individual. But we have a rule already in Westfield about naming things after people. So I think we just have to do some research and come up with a generic process. I do think we should include CGRT in these conversations, but that they don't have any more authority than any other group in town, other than, this is certainly their trail. But when it comes to naming facilities, they're a stakeholder, but not the only stakeholder and the only concerned set of citizens here. So,
right. Well, I read the memorandum of agreement, and there's no naming rights, either specified or implied, and either. So, as far as
but I think we have to have an ordinance. I don't think we should just blindly jump at Don Wiglis' suggestion, though. I certainly respect him and all the people he represents, and know about all the wonderful things he's done in the city. But I think he's only taking this action because he didn't know there was any other thing going on with this bridge. He submitted this request out of the goodness of his heart to represent the soldiers, and he didn't understand that there was already a name and process in the city of Westfield. If you look at the drawing that he submitted, he didn't submit the drawing that the city engineer created years ago with the edit on it. He just sent somebody out with a camera and took a picture of it and then had somebody overlay some text on it. I don't think he understood that there was a grand scheme in the design of that bridge and the other bridge. The Elm Street Bridge is going to have some creative stuff on it as well. So I think we should probably hold this.
I mean, I've worked on naming a park in Holyoke when I lived in Holyoke, and we dedicated the park. And it was a request that was made. It was made to the whole city council, and they approved it. I don't know. Do you know of any city that actually has a naming process? I mean, I understand.
Well, we did.
Not naming it after individuals. Holyoke would have had a list of 100 people that they would have named something after.
Well, we just voted it recently. We voted to name a park after Barbara Swords, if I remember right, or a building after Barbara Swords. So there are, precedences here. But again, I don't think we have a clear set of ordinances that define how that process works. Like, do we even have the authority to do this? That, again, I don't even know if they've decided if this thing is a park or a throughway yet. Maybe Park and Rec is in charge of naming things. We don't know that yet. So I think I would like to see this held in committee, have us do some research, create ordinances that work for everybody, and not only specific to this bridge, but to other buildings and properties in the city.
And in the meantime, the Friends can certainly, like I said, Paul came up with some great suggestions, and those could be presented. Because I don't think, I didn't realize that, the South, I mean, I it was probably at the dedication, but you tend to think that you're dedicating the whole bridge. It started out as one bridge, and you just have a lot of bridges. Right. So I don't think that any of us realized that there was another bridge that wasn't being named or part of the name. So I mean, there's no rush to this. It was just not something that the council doesn't meet after the first Thursday in July to the end of August, and we go into the budget starting next week for over a solid week. And so it's just not something I just wanted to have out there, and I wanted to bring people in and try to get something going, and so the Friends can meet on it and discuss and correspond back to the city council. I mean, this is an item that's in this committee to discuss. And so and I appreciate, I've gotten a lot of calls from Kate and Carmel and John Tazaneri, and I'm sure a couple others, and which I appreciate. So
if I could just add that we can also speak with the Purple Heart organization in the meantime over the summer and try to get their thoughts a little bit and share some of our ideas. The Columbia Greenway Rail Trail has its own history too, the canals and later the railroads and everything. And so we want to really make sure that we preserve that. I also want to say that the Main Street Bridge had been named, conceptually had been named, I'm not sure by who, but calling it the Gateway Bridge, just that it's the gateway from Route 20 into the center of town. And so I don't know how formal that is, but I have heard it being called that since it's been put in place, so, but we'll do that. We'll do our homework, and we'll get involved with the Purple Heart folks in the meantime, just to get a dialogue going.
Yeah. Right. Well, and also all in this day and time that, there's a large segment of the population that doesn't want to name everything after the military industrial complex. And, we can't have every bridge named after military. That many people find bothersome. So I think we have to take their views into account as well, and find ways to keep everybody happy.
Well, for those of us who are doing the bleeding and the dying, it has nothing to do with the military industrial complex. They just make the mess. We just have to go serve it up. Yeah. So for those of us who are doing, like I said, all the bleeding and dying, that it's a separate thing.
I know, but you can see what's happening.
Picks of our time are written by somebody else, and
you can see what happens at the football games when the people are kneeling and they're knocking over tombstones in places, and there's a lot of issues in the country, knocking down statues.
There's a very specific award that's been given since the founding of this country,
Yep.
for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice.
Yep.
So, so whether you're a civilian, I mean, the deprivation of war, is
Yep.
legion and goes back thousands of years. This is something that's given to those who paid a price. So
Yep.
you're honoring the people.
Yep.
We're all just caught up in the same
Yep.
fabric, the historical epic. That has nothing to do with any of us. We don't have a choice. Ours is
No, and
much-
I agree, and I
Right.
certainly support this, and I
Yeah.
really appreciate the work of CGRT to talk about getting it placed on the actual Purple Heart Trail, and maybe even putting a higher
very good
profile
suggestions.
public recognition thing there, whether it be a painting or an arts, creative arts outside. There's a lot of things that we can do in that area
Right.
that makes perfect sense, and I think that would make Don
Like,
Wildis
the
and the rest of the groups
neighborhood
very
have-
happy.
There's certain things that are dedicated to certain things, so there is a way to handle it. Like I
Yep.
said, the mayor wasn't even on his radar to name this particular
Right.
item. It was a request that came in front of the council by a citizen that has done an awful lot. But any citizen made a request. We're honoring that,
Yep.
and now trying to include all the stakeholders, everybody that has an interest in this, and work with everybody on it. So,
And I think 2 of the parks around there are named for veteran type things. And isn't
One
the
is
Pearl
Pearl
Harbor
Harbor, and
Memorial
then-
thing in there? The Pearl Harbor Stone?
well, every little
that?
section, there's right.
Yeah.
It has a Polish name, I think.
Yeah.
And it may be actually named after somebody that was killed at Pearl Harbor, but that probably was decades ago when it was named. That's
Yeah.
the stone. That's
Right. And then we have the American flag flying in the Veterans Park there on one side of the bridge.
correct. Yeah.
So I think it's a really good suggestion by Paul and the rest of the team at
No, I
CGRT.
I really appreciate Paul's comments and everybody that on the Columbia Greenway Rail Trail Committee that contacted me and sent information. So I will entertain a motion.
So motion to hold in committee.
I'll second that. Any discussion? Seeing none.
Yes.
All in favor?
Yes.
Another unanimous decision by the. All right. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Kamil.
Thank you. Thanks for all the great
You guys
feedback.
have done.
Thanks,
care.
John. Looking good, John, by the way.
Okay, so item 3 is a motion by Councilor Alley to discuss community gardens on city-owned land, specifically the land that the city actually owns as part of the airport noise mitigation. And this was referred to city properties and the mayor and the airport manager. I didn't know if the airport commission wanted to even get involved with this. So there is a committee that already exists, and they've already spoken on this and they're in favor of it. I just wanted to be able to send something from the council where the council said, we think this is a good idea. It's one of the things that, obviously there's some restrictions, things can't be built there and there's certain things that can and cannot be done with that property. And this was just one way of just getting out to the council, but also to the public to see what kind of support there is or interest in that land that's up there.
So when somebody takes a piece of property, like, somebody had a house on a piece of land, for example, and then it gets knocked down because of the noise mitigation, who actually ends up with title to that land? Does it go back to the city or does it get thrown to the
Eventually,
airport somehow?
it came back to the city. The federal government has a process for reviewing and recommending,
Disposition.
potential uses for the land. Like, in other words, these are the things we would accept. And that's what this would be, just one of the things that it could be used for. No home can ever be built there, but it does become a city property. And that was one of the questions that I first had was, who actually owns the land? Like, did the federal government end up with it? But no, it reverts back to the city. It was all a federal program that the airport administered. They had so much money each year to either buy a home, demolish a home, and then clean it up and that sort of thing. Because it was 2 processes. You had to buy the house and that sort of thing, and then do something. But the land reverts to the city, and so
Can the city sell the land? Like, some of these are houses in between 2 other houses. Can the city turn around and sell the land to each of those houses to make their yards bigger?
There's a committee, matter of fact, Council Aninsky is on that committee. And Chris Wallenberg, I was going to talk to him, but this hadn't even been sent to subcommittee at that point when it was, the last meeting, because it wasn't made till the end of the meeting, obviously. There's a list of acceptable uses. I just wanted to see if, will community gardens be one of them, and if the city was interested. This is really just a suggestion to move it forward. Obviously, I think it's a worthy endeavor for a number of reasons, if I won't get into that.
Yeah.
And so by just us, discussing it as a council, saying, we would certainly, consider one of those uses. There's probably a number of uses that, there are restrictions on what can go there. They can't be, I don't think they can be a commercial building. A home can never be built. There may be some structures, like perhaps maybe you could have like a storage thing.
Shed or something.
Shed or something, or, that sort of thing. But I don't think anybody can live there. So, and there is, like I said, an existing committee that was just getting going, and they appreciated the comments, and it's, I think they'll definitely consider it. It'll just become one
So
of
is
those.
this committee talking about the land use, or is this committee the proponent for using it for community farms?
Bill Aninsky could probably answer the question better. I think it's just that they're going to come up with a list of acceptable uses that the federal government would be totally okay with. And then it's up to the city or whoever, because people can buy the land. I mean, obviously, if you probably, somebody could buy an adjacent lot.
Right, that's what I was thinking. That would be the
And-
best use for the city. Somebody would own it and babysit it, mow the lawn and all that stuff, and it wouldn't be an eyesore, and we get tax revenue.
Sometimes, yeah, but you have one house is that he has a lot on both sides. And he wasn't planning on having an 1.5 acre lot, and in retirement and having to mow,
Right,
4,000 square foot
right.
lawn. So, or I could buy part of one, but some houses are surrounded,
Right.
right? So somebody might have the option to buy like 3. Well, they're not going to do that. So they're coming up with a list of acceptable potential uses. And, some of that land may sit dormant for a while. Obviously, like I said, I think, so they're just having that conversation. They're meeting with the federal government. Hopefully it's a short process.
Yep.
And just as far as coming up with a list, and this would just be one of them.
Okay.
But I just wanted to bring it in front of the council where, and like I said, it's a way of getting out to the public where people would go like, because a lot of people, I didn't even realize that it was reverting to the city. It was federal money.
Right.
Who was owning the land?
Right.
So
Right.
that's just,
So I would say, I would make a motion to approve the suggestion of using it for community gardens and refer this to the other committee. Refer to Council Oniski and let him do what he wants with it.
well, it's a committee that he's on.
Yeah, but we don't know what that is, and we don't even know, it's not a committee of this. Yeah,
Most
but
of
it may
the-
not, it's not a committee of the city council, it's something else.
It's
So-
no, it's put together probably by the airport or the airport commission.
Right.
I think
So how about we just send this as a
that's why I said the mayor.
recommendation to the airport commission and to Council Oniski, just as a recommendation of this group to allow or consider allowing community gardens.
Yep, we can do that, and I'll try to get a hold of Chris, and if that committee is organized a different way, we'll just amend it.
Well, we have Kate here and she's on the committee,
Yes, you are Kate, and Kate's still here,
and she likes flowers too.
and she likes flowers, and hopefully
And
she likes
vegetables.
vegetables.
I love flowers.
Yeah, not all vegetables though, but she probably likes some vegetables.
Okay, Kate, can you help us out here?
Actually, I really don't feel qualified at this point to speak about this. I know there was a house removed, and it does come up at our monthly meetings about the noise mitigation process. And I'm not sure
The
what
airport
committee.
commission, though, right?
Yes, I'm
See, I
not
don't know if
sure
this
what
is-
committee you're talking about. That bill is.
I think it's an ad hoc committee. I don't think it's the airport commission. I think it's
No.
I think it's Ward 1 and 6 councilors.
Their own
I'm
committee?
guessing.
Okay.
No,
Right?
I think,
I'll talk to
yeah, but I
Wallenberg.
think Nick is involved. I think Billinski involved because they're adjacent to the airport.
Yeah, there's a good number of people that are involved with the
Yeah.
committee. It's a separate, it's like either an ad hoc committee. It's not the commission.
Okay.
No, I know we have never discussed having a community garden, but I
No,
think
we
it'd be
didn't mean
nice-
to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine. And I think though, if we're kind of kept informed about this, would be great. And because I'm sure Chris, actually, I'm sure the airport manager knows more about land use opportunities up there. Because I know we are trying to do some development so that we can generate revenue. That's what we're really striving for. But I don't know this particular area of the airport yet. So,
Yeah, well, this is private.
These are
land.
streets
It's
along
private
Holyoke
home.
Road.
okay, all right.
There's
Dry Bridge
Some-
Road. Holyoke.
Dry Bridge, the
Yeah, I know
side
what
streets.
that is. Okay.
Yep. Lisa Drive, I think, and
Yeah,
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
I think there's more work to be done with some more
Yeah.
noise mitigation.
there might be some on
Items, yeah.
Southampton Road.
Yeah.
Well, either that or it was, they did the noise mitigation,
Yes.
then the jets changed and then it became a whole nother issue because the takeoff patterns were different than the
Right.
smaller jets.
Yeah.
And
So
all
maybe
of a
this is a
sudden,
good
yeah.
land use. I don't know, but I think it'd be nice, if we can somehow. I'm sure Bill will keep us informed. I'm assuming.
Yeah, or Chris. I mean, like I said, I
Chris,
know
yeah.
Chris is meeting with the federal government.
Yes.
Because they're
Yep.
basically putting together the list of approved potential uses.
Yeah.
well, there's other city-owned land too, Dan, that we could look at. Like down near the Western Mass Hospital or whatever the new name of it is.
Right.
The city owns land down there that's, good farmland. I think they call it. It's listed on the city maps as a playground or a park. But I think places like that exist around the city where there's pockets of land that would be ideal for community gardens. So we
Right.
shouldn't just limit, if you want to look at those kind of things.
Right.
Um,
No, this was because that committee was actually meeting
right.
and wanted to suggest that because of those conversations that this would become, because I'm sure there's a lot of things that could go there, and it would
Yeah.
obviously be up to the individuals or the city, I'm not, wasn't trying to, I just wanted to make sure that that was included as part of the conversation.
Yep.
I'm not on that committee, but the feedback I got was, yeah, that would be a great use, and it will definitely
Yep.
be considered as part of that list.
Good.
Like I said, there's certain things that are excluded, and that you don't want to be part of that group.
Right.
So yeah,
No, but gardens seem like a good idea. So again, I'll make a motion to refer it to Billinski and the Airport Commission with a recommendation to include.
not the airport commission.
Well, let them do whatever they want with it.
It's not the commission. It's there's a separate group already meeting. But that's the group it needs to go to. That's why I just put the airport manager.
Okay, the airport
the
manager,
mayor,
Billinski,
and
and the mayor.
ward councils are on this, but there's probably another. It's a good sized committee.
Yeah, but we have to send it somewhere? And we can only send it to city council, mayor, and other
Right.
bodies in the city. So,
But
so you want to send it to the airport manager, the mayor, Billinski, and
Right, but
Morgan
couldn't,
Ellie?
like a letter sending a letter to the airport manager, supporting community gardens be included as a
Well,
potential.
can't you just do it as a report of committee next meeting? Just report a
Yeah.
committee, recommend, yeah. That's
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
All right, motion to that.
All right, yeah, second,
Second, yes.
yes, another unanimous decision. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so I think that concludes everything. There were no minutes because there was no previous meeting. So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Well, let's schedule our next meeting. Can we
Okay,
do Monday at 6?
Monday at 6. What time's the first finance meeting?
I don't know.
At 7.
Okay,
Well, because all the meetings after that, from the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and the 21st are all starting at 6 o'clock. The 10th meets at 7. So you
the
want
14th meets at when?
the 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, and 21st, their start times are 6 p.m. The 10th meets at 7 p.m. for some reason. So if that doesn't change, so yeah, we could meet.
Do you want to do the 10th?
Well,
10th at 6 p.m.?
oh, you want to do the? Oh, you want to do it
Or
on
the 14th at 5 p.m.? 5:30?
I would say let's do 5 p.m. I hate 5 p.m. meetings, but yeah, I would say do 5 p.m. because I don't want to be rushed if we.
Okay. All right. 14th,
it's pretty
5 p.m.
quick, right? Yeah, I mean, the city clerk has to approve that. So, so you're saying 6:14 at 5 p.m.
o'clock. Yep. You got to get it to her tomorrow so she can.
Correct. And
And
she has
just
to
put
agree-
that, the first item on there only.
Correct. And that shouldn't conflict with anything else, but she's the one that allots the time.
Yep. Well, Pete's got to make sure he's got TV time.
Correct. But it's the clerk that schedules it.
Yep.
I can hear somebody.
Pete, are you back there? 14th, 5 p.m.
A week from today, Monday.
Okay.
Okay.
you.
All right. So second that and
Okay.
all those in
Yes.
favor? Aye. All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. All those
Yes.
in favor? Aye, yes. All right. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Night, everyone.